Have you ever felt the kind of loneliness that seeps into your bones, settling there like a permanent resident? The kind where even in a crowded room you feel completely invisible. Or maybe you've experienced grief so profound that it reshapes the person you are, leaving behind only fragments of who you used to be. Dot, vertical bar, vertical bar. My world was once vibrant, filled with laughter and love. I was a mother, a partner, and I thought my life had a direction. But sometimes life doesn't ask for your permission. It just takes what it wants and leaves you scrambling to pick up the pieces. Now, my life is a monotonous cycle. Work, errands, back to my silent apartment, where the walls echo with what used to be dot, vertical bar, vertical bar. People pass by me every day, but to them I'm just another face, another figure. What they don't see is the shadow that hovers over me, a constant reminder of a past that refuses to fade. It's strange how memories can be both a comfort and a torment. Replaying scenes I'd rather forget but can't bring myself to let go of either dot, vertical bar nights are the hardest. When the world goes quiet, that's when the ghosts of my past truly awaken. Endless nights of insomnia, staring at the ceiling, haunted by the laughter of a young boy whose photo sits quietly on my dresser. My son, Jonah. The name alone is enough to send a shiver down my spine. Dot, vertical bar. I am surrounded by walls, both physical and emotional, a self-imposed prison of sorts. I tell myself it's for protection, but deep down, I know it's just fear masquerading as strength. I hold onto the photo like a lifeline, as if by keeping his image alive, I'm defying the void left behind. Dot, vertical bar. This is the world I navigate daily, a world colored by pain and isolation. And while it might look ordinary from the outside, it's a labyrinth of grief and silence on the inside, waiting for a light to guide me through. The storm that night was a fitting backdrop, as if the heavens themselves were echoing the chaos inside our home. Thunder grumbled like an old grievance, and the wind howled, angry and relentless. I remember the rain splattering against the windows, each drop a reminder of the tumult brewing within. It was the last night I saw Mark, and the memory is as vivid as the jagged lightning that carved the sky. He left with a hurried goodbye, a promise to return that lingered like a ghost in the air. I watched him fade into the storm, swallowed whole by the night, my heart heavy with unspoken fears. Vertical bar. I was alone with Jonah that night, my precious boy whose laughter could light up the darkest corners of my mind. But that night, the laughter was absent, replaced by the eerie quiet of a child already asleep. In the silence, I was acutely aware of the fragility of life, a truth that became unbearable when Jonah's accident stole him away from me. My mind replays the moment endlessly, a warped film stuck on repeat. The guilt clings to every thought. What if I had checked on him earlier? What if I hadn't turned my back? The questions circle like vultures, tearing at my sanity. Vertical bar. The silence after Mark left was different, a suffocating absence that filled every corner of the house. It was like living in a shadow, his presence a haunting absence. I would startle at imagined footsteps, turn my head at the whisper of his name, all the while knowing the truth. He was gone. The weight of Jonah's loss, intertwined with Mark's absence, created a burden so heavy it felt like drowning in a sea of grief. Vertical bar. In the solitude that followed, I retreated into memories, speaking to Jonah as if he were beside me. I clung to fragmented images of his smile, his tiny hand in mine. My apartment became a sanctuary of sorrow, the walls absorbing whispered apologies and silent screams. Each night, I face the storm anew, trapped by the relentless cycle of trauma that refused to end. Vertical bar, vertical bar. The nights stretch into infinity, a relentless reel of memories that won't let go. It's as if my mind is a broken projector, flickering images of Jonah's laughing face and Mark's departing silhouette against the backdrop of that stormy night. I wander through these memories feeling like I'm watching a tragedy unfold, unable to change the script. Each memory is intrusive, clawing at my mind, refusing to let me rest. Vertical bar, vertical bar, vertical bar, vertical bar. Come morning, the weight of exhaustion presses down, a suffocating blanket of fatigue. I move through my routine like a ghost, more specter than human, yearning for the solace of invisibility. The world outside my window continues its relentless dance, indifferent to my private suffering, and I envy its ignorance. My isolation is a fortress built on guilt and blame, and I am both the prisoner and the warden, endlessly looping through the cycles of what was and what could never be. Vertical bar, vertical bar, vertical bar, vertical bar. Guilt is a constant companion, whispering incessantly, reminding me of what I've lost. Jonah's absence is a chasm inside me, an echoing void that no amount of self-reproach can fill. I relive the accident in agonizing detail, each replay a stab to the heart. Could I have done something differently? Was his death my fault? These questions haunt me, circling like vultures, waiting to feast on the remnants of my sanity. Vertical bar, vertical bar, vertical bar, vertical bar. The walls of my apartment seem to close in, their silent witness to my unraveling. Sometimes I speak to Jonah as though he's still here, my voice hollow and trembling. Is this madness, I wonder, or just a desperate attempt to stave off the loneliness that grips me? I clutch at these one-sided conversations as if they could somehow bridge the gap between the living and the lost. Vertical bar, vertical bar, vertical bar, vertical bar. I avoid people, their presence, an unbearable reminder of connection I've lost. The idea of engaging exhausts me. My social reserves are depleted, my mind too fixated on the past to entertain the present. I drift further into myself, a ship lost in a sea of despair, with no lighthouse to guide me home. Vertical bar, vertical bar, vertical bar, vertical bar. Helplessness is a tidal wave, crashing over me, sweeping away any remnants of hope. I am adrift, bones weary, spirit crushed, longing for a release that never comes. Perhaps the true tragedy lies not in the memories themselves, but in my inability to escape them, to break free from this self-imposed prison. I am drowning in a sea of my own making, and I fear I may never find the surface again. Vertical bar, vertical bar. Vertical bar, vertical bar. The letter sits heavy in my hands, trembling slightly as if it holds the ghost of a promise. It breathes an unfamiliar truth into the stagnant air of my solitude. Mark, imprisoned by his own demons, fled not from me, but from the shadow of our shared grief. His words, inked in a familiar hand, weave a narrative of fear, of an unreachable heart crumbling under the weight of Jonah's absence. They slice through the veil of betrayal, revealing a man lost and afraid, a reflection of my own fractured soul. This revelation is a dagger and balm, severing the chains of anger, yet igniting a desperate search for meaning amidst the ruins of what once was. Vertical bar, vertical bar, vertical bar, vertical bar. In the quiet of the park, a sanctuary of echoes, I find myself perched upon the weathered bench where Jonah's laughter once danced upon the breeze. The playground, an arena of innocent dreams, stands now as a silent witness to my mourning. I sit, unraveling layers of suffocating silence, slowly allowing the whisper of life to seep back into my bones. Each visit is a pilgrimage, a ritual of untangling the snarled threads of my grief and rediscovering fragments of joy amid the shards of memory. Dot, vertical bar, vertical bar, vertical bar, vertical bar. I turn to pages, blank and eager to consume the chaos within me, the ink embodying my silent screams. My journal becomes a confidant, a mirror reflecting the depths of my sorrow, yet offering no judgment. With each word, I traverse the labyrinth of my pain, not to escape, but to meet the ghost within, to understand rather than bury it beneath layers of avoidance. Silence had been my greatest disguise, but these pages demand truth, insist on exposure, and I begin to see that pain, when faced, loses its power to consume. Dot, vertical bar, vertical bar, vertical bar, vertical bar. In confronting the past, I slowly strip away the veils of guilt that shroud my heart. Mark's confession becomes a spark, a tiny flame against the encroaching dark, urging me to forgive the frailty in us all. Therapy opens doors to vulnerability, inviting me to step into the storm rather than retreat. Each session is a lifeline, a step toward remapping the pathways of my mind, reshaping the narrative woven from threads of loss and love. I learned that the journey is not to forget, but to carry the memory with grace, to let the photograph of Jonah transform into a beacon of affection rather than an anchor of sorrow. Vertical bar, vertical bar, vertical bar, vertical bar. Amidst group circles where stories intertwine like lifelines tossed into a sea of shared despair, I find connection. Here, pain becomes a bridge rather than a barrier, voices resonating with the unspoken language of survival. No longer an island, I learn that through collective healing, the burden of grief lightens, allowing me to breathe life back into my soul. The journey continues, but with each step, the world becomes a canvas of possibility once more, painted with the hues of resilience and whispered hope. Vertical bar, vertical bar. Vertical bar, vertical bar. In the quiet solitude of her thoughts, Anna begins to understand the weight she has carried, not as a shackle binding her, but as a testament to her endurance. Her heart, once a battlefield of conflict and grief, now holds the tender shoots of resilience. She embraces the truth that some wounds will never fully close, but they do not have to dictate the melody of her life song. In her chest, the echoes of Jonah's laughter and Mark's promises blend into a harmony that no longer cuts, but soothes. Vertical bar, vertical bar. The photograph of Jonah that once brought tears now inspires a melancholy smile. It is a symbol of love that transcends loss, a reminder of a life that, despite its brevity, brought unimaginable joy. Anna's journey is not toward forgetfulness, but toward remembrance with peace. She comes to understand that grief is not a state to be escaped, but a landscape through which one travels, learning to see its stark beauty and allowing it to reshape her soul. Vertical bar, vertical bar. To you, dear viewer, who may also walk in silence beneath the weight of your own burdens, have you ever carried something so heavy, so private, that it shaped your entire life in silence? I invite you to share your stories of grief, abandonment, or emotional collapse. Here's a safe space where your words can become a bridge to others who understand. Each week, one story will be chosen anonymously to become a cinematic video, letting your voice echo louder and further than you might imagine. Together, we can turn silence into strength. In the quiet solitude of her apartment, Anna sat by the window where the light gently filtered through, casting soft patterns on the floor. was in this stillness, amidst the whispers of the past, that she found herself beginning to mend. Her heart, once heavy with an unspeakable burden, now beat with a delicate acceptance of the scars she bore. Each scar told its own story, a testament to the pain endured, yet also to the strength she discovered within those dark moments. Vertical bar, vertical bar. The faded photograph of Jonah, always nearby, had transformed from a reminder of loss to a beacon of enduring love. The echoes of his laughter, once haunting, now accompanied her with a comforting warmth. Anna found herself nestled in a moment of quiet understanding, where the threads of guilt and grief wove together into a tapestry rich with layers that were not just of sorrow, but also of profound love and resilience. Vertical bar, vertical bar. Outside, the season shifted, just as Anna's perception of her own story transformed. She was learning to live with her pain, to let it become part of her narrative without letting it define her entirety. Through the fog of memories, she glimpsed the tender buds of healing. The process was neither swift nor smooth, but it was earnest, and more importantly, it was hers. Years might soften the edges of her wound, but she knew it would never fully vanish. Yet now, she found that it didn't need to. It could coexist with her, gently cradling the lessons she gleaned amidst the storm. Vertical bar, Anna's journey was one of continuous evolution, a dance between the past and the present that, while leaving room for sorrow, opened her heart to hope once more. As she breathed in deeply, she embraced this new chapter and the life she still had to live, a life now touched by the light of understanding and acceptance. Vertical bar, have you ever been through something you've never told anyone about? Something that still lives in your chest? Vertical bar, if you feel like sharing it, we're here. Drop your story in the comments, even just a part of it. Every week, we turn one of your stories into a cinematic video just like this one. Vertical bar. This is a safe space. Your voice matters. You're not alone.